there, but please think of like if you'd like to ask questions where you are welcome to. This is what it's about. I'm just going to do a brief like introduction of Kyle because he's going to show his work, and I think that's so important. And so Kyle is our Kyle is one our the Wabash Valley Juried exhibition. Everybody knows we have a juror every year from a different place out of our region, and every year it's a different juror. And he's gotten in the exhibition, I'm not sure how many times, but he has won the best painting 3 times. So that's 3 completely different jurors. And he won the grand prize in painting, which is in memory of Emily Cox Gedrick, this year for the mod radio one. And he has 2 works in the museum right now. So Kyle studied at the American Academy of Art, where he received a Bachelor of Fine Art with a specialization in oil painting in 2012. Since then, he has been working full-time as an oil painter to make this a lifelong successful career. He did have representation by a gallery in 2013 until now through the McCormick Gallery. And then aside from, he also had solo shows and exhibited his work in numerous juried exhibitions. Some he has been fortunate enough to win awards like this book. This year, Kyle Surges will be published in Artist Magazine as an honorable mention award winner, as well as New American Paintings. There's a little, what his gallerist, the McCormick Gallery, Tom, I believe is his name, he said, Kyle finds both beauty and compelling subject matter in bits and pieces of discarded Americana, everyday objects whose native elegance is exposed in his meticulous portraits. So I can't wait to hear about your meticulous work. So go ahead, take it on. Thanks for being here, Kyle.
Well, of course, thank you for having me. My name is Kyle Surges. I'm from Homer Glen, Illinois. We just built this house. It's new construction, my wife and I, but we've been in for literally 2.5 weeks. So we're still, figuring out what to do with things and assigning things, putting things together. So anyway, Homer Glen is a suburb of Chicago, southwest of Chicago. It's about 30 minutes from the city. So it's a decent a ways away from the city, but it's also close enough. As you mentioned, I studied at the American Academy of Art in Chicago. That not to be confused with the Art Institute. It's a separate school. And I graduated with a specialization in oil painting. So at the academy, it was there, I had an instructor, Chris Kosnowski, who's also not only an instructor, but a local Chicago artist, and he shows exhibits and is represented by a gallery as well. And he paints in this high realism with a lot of detail. So I learned a lot from under his guidance and how to paint like this in terms of technique. A lot of times in art school, they'll teach you when painting to use the largest brush for the job. Well, not so with the case of some of these paintings. A lot of times my little workhorse paintbrush is a 20/0 round, which is super tiny. I think other artists use them for like painting miniatures and stuff. But I use that quite a bit on almost every painting. I also learned from Chris to work with smooth panels instead of stretched canvas. Not only is it easier to work those small brushes over a completely flat surface, but it also, it creates a better communication with the paint and the viewer because of the lack of surface texture that you might get with the weave of the canvas. So also at the Academy, we always work from life. As a freshman, you start off drawing from live figures. But towards, as you progress in school, your options are, you have more options on how to work, and you sort of learn what you're gonna be doing basically in your career. So you could work from photos or life. I always set up a still life, so I always have something to refer to if say there's some weird reflection in a piece and you want to be able to like turn around and see, just so I know exactly what it is that I'm painting. So I think I could better describe that in paint using that technique rather than just a photo. But that's not to say that a photo isn't helpful. It's a nice reference to, I always have a photo as well, just to see how the camera handles the image. Also what I learned from Chris Kosnowski is sort of how to simplify the still lifes. You don't necessarily need a whole bunch of items to create a narrative in a still life. But however, in doing so, you have to be careful in the items that you choose to paint, because they have to be very interesting. They got to be super special. They got to be, they have to be relatable. And for me, I find those items to be sort of vintage items. Those are things that I like to paint that have nostalgia. So when Louis Cox, our juror this year, when he spoke about my piece and what he said about it, it clicked, and I was ecstatic that yes, he got it. That's exactly what I was going for in the piece. So some of my influences outside of school were the trompe-l'oeil painters of the early 1900s, such as William Harnett. Trompe-l'oeil being a French term, which means to deceive an eye. So what a lot of trompe-l'oeil painters will do is they'll only use a very shallow depth of space in the painting. So when you start to do that, you can create flatter items, and typically the flatter they are, the more realistic that you can make them look. So for example, if you paint like a piece of tape, which is like the corner, like sticking up, it almost looks, when you paint that, not only is it pretty easy to paint tape to make it look like that, but it also makes it look like you can go up and grab that piece of tape off of the painting surface, which I find really, really cool. But besides the trompe-l'oeil painters, I was also influenced by Northern Renaissance painters, mostly in how they painted anything and everything in their work. Artists such as Hans Holbein and the Ambassadors, which is just a massive scale of a painting. And he included every single bit of detail which was in the room, all the like little textures in the rugs, the beards, the furry like little coats that they used to wear back then. So when I saw that, I was just stunned by how much detail that could be created with oil paints. And then lastly, pop art is sort of an influence on me with artists such as Andy Warhol, because of I'm sort of doing the same thing that they did with their work. See, what they would do is they would typically take everyday objects and they would heighten them to create them almost as like a cherished icon. So like Andy Warhol did that with the Campbell's soups and the Coca-Colas and the pictures of Elvis Presley, the Prince of Elvis Presley, and so that follows in suit of sort of the same thing that I do. I pick mostly vintage items that were, as Tom McCormick described, sometimes bits of piece of discarded America. So, and then once they go on the canvas, they become a fine piece of artwork. So I did receive gallery representation with Tom McCormick in 2013, as Hilda described. I came about that fairly interesting and hopeful for other artists that it is possible to gain gallery representation by submitting to competitions, and that is how I did gain the representation. After graduating in 2012, I was on my own for a few months, just painting things that I thought were neat, things that I wanted to see painted, and submitting them to local art shows in the Chicago area. This one particular show in 2013, the juror happened to be Tom McCormick of McCormick Gallery. I've never met Tom before. I didn't even know who he was, and he the same to me. But he saw the painting that I submitted, and let me see if I can bring that painting up. Okay, it's saying only the host can share in this meeting, so I need to be made co-host.
Fred. Let's see.
So I mean, I can keep going along with the story.
Yeah, Fred, if you can make him.
No, I have done. I did it again. I had done it earlier. It says Kyle.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay,
Now I got it.
thank you.
Okay, so this was the painting. Very simple, just a little Hershey foil. And Tom saw the piece. He not only did they award me second place in the show, but he also purchased it for his own personal collection. So how exciting. But it got even better. After the show, he invited me over to his gallery in West Loop. He had me bring a few more paintings, and he offered me a solo show. So I had my solo show in the fall of 2013. So it is possible to get recognition through submitting to shows such as SWOPE. I think that could be exciting for other emerging artists and people looking for representation. I'll slide over to the next image. This is just another detail image of what that painting looked like. So even
what is the size, Kyle, for the painting?
It's only 8 by 8.
Okay, thank you.
My second show with Tom at his gallery was in 2017. And then I was supposed to have a third show with Tom last year in 2020 in November, but due to COVID, it got pushed to this March 6th to be exact. And I really hope it still goes through. I'm not sure if it's going to be delayed anymore or not. I was really hoping it not to be a masked event, but it's turning out like it most likely probably will be. So we'll see. So let me next show some of the paintings that were in previous SWOPE shows, so you guys can see what I've been submitting. So this one I submitted my first time in SWOPE in 2015. And this one, the grand prize in painting as well. I can't remember who the juror was back then, but very humbling, very exciting for someone who has only gotten started just a few years before. So it's just, it's a painting of an old cap gun in its original packaging. I find a lot of these painting ideas on eBay. It seems like you could buy basically anything that your mind can think of on eBay from any point in time. And well, sometimes you do have to pay a little bit more for the item, but in these circumstances, they're items that I want, and I'll go ahead and spend the extra on the purchase price. So the next painting was submitted in 2016. These are of World War II rations. And this also won the grand prize in painting. These are items that a serviceman during World War II would have received. So you have items like the pork luncheon meat, which is probably just relabeled Spam. You have some Orangeade crackers, some Charms candy and gum, cigarettes, because this is the smoker's package, which was offered to the servicemen, and a book of matches. And then this is done in a shadow box frame. And then next, this was also at the Swope Show in 2018. I submit basically every year. This one's called Drinking Happy Bird. We'll go back to this one later because I got a little bit more to say about it. But this one did win the People's Choice Award. And then the next piece is the Coke cooler painting. Also, I submitted this to Swope, and that was in 2019. And again, I won the People's Choice Award. So I don't have any friends or relatives in Terre Haute. So I imagine these are all legitimate votes coming in for my pieces. So next I could talk about sort of the recent theme with most of my pieces, if you'd like. Let me pull some more.
That would be great. Kyle, is the Coca-Cola one the largest you've done so far?
If it's not the largest one, I'm working on the next largest one. I think they're pretty close in like square inch size. So yeah, it is large. That Coca-Cola painting is 40 by 32. So about the themes in recent paintings. Let me add some more photos up here. We'll go back to the drinking bird.
It's so weird, like when you show one of the images, I picture exactly in the gallery where it was hanging.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, now I have a fair amount of images loaded up. So the recent theme for the paintings have been mid-century modern items. And I can draw direct influence by that from watching the series Mad Men. I know the show has been on for at least 10 years now, but I didn't get around to watching it until 2017. That's when my wife has seen the show, and I finally sat down to watch it all. So, and I just sort of fell in love with all that era of items and things, basically from all items post-war up until probably the late 60s. You know, the cars, the furniture, the just everyday random items, such as the radio, like you saw. So this Drinking Happy Bird was the first sort of painting in this mid-century modern theme. And again, the Drinking Happy Bird came directly from an episode in Mad Men. In the episode, they're all standing around a table at the ad agency, and they're watching this little drinking bird dip and dip and dip into water and wondering how does it work? And then my radar went off. I'm like, well, that's sort of a cool item. Maybe I could do something with that. So again, I found one on eBay, of course, and it came with the original box, and the box looked pretty nice. So I thought maybe to include that. So the next question was, well, we have potential to make him drinking something. Well, what would that be? What would be kind of a cool thing to have the bird dipping in? So went back to Mad Men, and if you noticed, Don Draper, he drinks a lot of old fashions in the show at restaurants. That seems to be his high-end drink. So I thought, oh, perfect. That would be. Those are very popular right now. That would be a good fit for this painting. So in the painting, he's drinking from an old fashioned. Couple of little other things that I did change. The box did say on it non-flammable, but I figured since he's drinking alcohol, we'll change that. So now it's inflammable. So now he is a little volatile. So it's just another detail image of the drinking bird. So we could move on from this piece.
Before you move on, we
Okay.
have to note the Mad Men Terre Haute connection. The Myra Janko Daniels was a student at Indiana State in the late 1940s, early 1950s.
No
And while
kidding.
a student, she went to work for the Me Store in advertising. One thing led to another. I'll make it the story shorter than usual. She moved to Chicago eventually, started her own, I think it was the first large woman-owned advertising agency, and then merged with another agency and married the principal of that agency, whose name was Dan Daniels. And so they had a very large agency for years. They retired, moved to Naples, Florida. And the show Mad Men is based on their agency, and Dan Draper is based on Dan Daniels. So the other note here we have with us on our call tonight, Lainey Meese, who's a good friend of Myra when she spends time in Naples, Florida. Would you like to say anything, Lainey, about that? Did I get that story right? We're trying to unmute Lainey here.
Did you hear me? I said you had a
we
great job
we did not.
synthesizing that.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I said you did a great job of synthesizing that story of Myra. She's quite an interesting person.
And she is mid-90s?
For sure. I'm not exactly sure which of those numerals fit with her, but she, yes, is in the mid-90s.
I understand. I had a very long conversation with her recently, and she's charming, and let's all hope that when we're her age that we have her mind and her experience. Anyway, Kyle, I wanted to add that before you went on. So, sorry for the interruption.
No, of course. That's a very cool tidbit. It seems like it's come full circle right now. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. This is Coke cooler. This is my Coca-Cola painting. Every solo show, I typically have at least one Coca-Cola thing painting in the show. It's a very collectible type of painting. A lot of people do Coke stuff. So this is like the same era all these items came from, around the mid-century, probably the 50s or early 60s or something like that. Here's another detail shot of the little ladybug on top of the handle. I figured with such a large piece, as I mentioned, it is 40 by 32. I wanted to have like a little piece that you couldn't quite, a little something that you couldn't quite notice or tell what it was when you backed off from the image, but once you got up to it, so something to draw the viewer in closer, because there's a ton of detail in this painting, and I want people to get it as close as they can see. So that's the reason for painting the little ladybug.
Kyle,
So,
are you aware that the Coke model was designed and produced first in Terre Haute?
wow, you're kidding me, right?
No, that's the truth, and that may have something to do with the People's Choice Award. We have an annual Coca-Cola festival. Our Vigo County Historical Society Museum has a large Coca-Cola display. You can go in there and buy a Coke float. And so there's quite a bit of history here. We can find a Terre Haute connection to virtually everything.
Yeah, I guess so.
Ladybug.
Wow.
I thought you did it because you knew it was Terre Haute, the birth of the Coca-Cola Festival. I don't know. I was just, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's because we have.
Oh, no, it's completely unrelated from that. No. No, that's way cool. So we'll keep going. Yeah, here's the grand prize in painting this year, or last year. This is mod radio. And this came about because I had done a previous vintage radio, and I thought it did well. Here it is. This was just titled Radio. I had done this in 2014, and I let Tom McCormick, the gallery owner, I think he brought it to Expo Chicago, and it sold very quickly. That's not always the best way to judge a painting success, but it's also not a bad one. So I thought that I would revisit doing some sort of radio themed painting, and keeping with the mid-century modern theme, I chose this radio. And as you can probably guess where I got it from, I got it from eBay. So there was lots of different types of brands. This was a pretty common type of nightstand feature you would see. It is just fairly a large radio. It takes up a bit of real estate. It is a tube radio, so it has those glowing little tubes to create the signal and amplify it. So it is pretty primitive. I wouldn't want to have to rely on this to wake up every morning, but this is what they had back then, and now bring it into our present time. It just has that modern mid-century look, and I thought this would be a great piece to include with these other paintings that I've been creating. One thing to note that I changed during the painting this piece was I did have a different background selected for it. Sometimes I'll include like wallpaper in the background to just try to make the painting the best I can. I struggled to find this wallpaper. I searched a long time to find what I thought was going to be a cool addition to the painting. But I got to the point during painting that you would add those details into the background, and I just decided not to. I think it would have ruined. I think it would have been distracting from all the detail in the radio, and I just didn't think that I needed to proceed to paint all these like little. The background, the wallpaper I picked out looked like sort of like little squiggly, what I thought was like electronic schematics and little circles and ovals, but I decided just to keep it the plain green background, and I don't regret that decision. Normally I try to have every aspect of the painting planned out so there isn't like little missteps. I want the painting to look at the time it's finished as I had it in my mind when I started it. So just a little thing that usually doesn't happen a lot, but it did happen in this one. So we could look at the next piece that I have set up.
Kyle, I'm going to interrupt you again. Not a Terre Haute connection. Well, exactly, in a way it is. We now have with us the judge has joined us, Louis Cox.
Oh, really?
So he joined while you were talking about the painting. So he didn't hear the beginning of it. Not to have him interject anything. I just wanted you to know that, and I thought it would be
Sure.
Probably if any discussion about what you did. You had noted, I believe, in your introductory remarks, how you were pleased with Louis's comments about it. Do I recall that correctly?
Correct. Yeah, I did. Yeah, when I heard him say what he did about it, and it's nostalgic, and I just knew that he got it. You know, that's exactly what I was going for, and you know, it was a perfect understanding of why I would paint something like this. So it was excellent. So we could proceed to the next piece. I showed you this one. That was inspiration for
Kyle,
the mod.
is there a detail of the radio David is asking?
Oh, sorry, I don't actually have one in this
Okay.
slideshow.
I'll send you. I'll take one and I'll send it.
Okay. I mean, all these images are available on my website, kylesurgis.com, and you can go in. I have super high resolution images, and you can go in there and look at every little detail. So.
And Louis, the juror, is saying sorry he was late getting on, but life's hang up. So glad you liked the comments I made. So just wanted to let you know.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on to the next painting that I have at the Swoop Show, and it's my s'more painting. I titled it Summer S'more, and this really came about sort of backwards on how I work. This came about just because I had some scrap frame material, some black walnut cutoffs. I make all my frames and panels and everything. I do everything myself. So I don't, walnut tends to be an expensive wood. I didn't want to waste it. So I made this smallish size frame. I can't quite remember what size the frame is, but the size of the panel that the painting sits on is 5 5/8 by 5 5/8. So I made that up, and then I thought, well, now I got to find an object to place within that space. What could that be? So it was probably about summertime, and I can't quite remember what made me think of to paint a small s'more, but here it is, and adhering to true trompe-l'oeil fashion. Instead of painting it like laying down on a table, I just took it and smooshed it up against the wall, so it's super flat, and I think the texture of the graham cracker comes out a little more realistic when you present it in this way. And then the foil background decision was again made by a previous painting I did. I could swipe and show you that one. So I did this one. This one was titled Some for Later. It's a chocolate Easter bunny. I had done the foil for this one, and it's always been stuck in my mind that it turned out really cool. I maybe I would want to do it again in the future. So I thought maybe the s'more would be a good candidate for this background. And if you look in the reflected bottom right of the foil, you see like reflected orange and red. And I figured I put this in there because I thought maybe you could associate that with like a campfire scene. So, and then the last piece I will talk about, unless there's more time, we could talk about more, or we have questions. Or this one is titled Royal Empress. It's the actual name of the typewriter. The typewriter is a Royal brand, and the name of it is Empress. And this happened to be my grandmother's. She bought it new in 1963. And this was a piece that I came across when we were sadly cleaning out her house in 2018 because she had to go live in a nursing home. But it was something that I hadn't seen since a kid, or at least thought about. But once I saw it again as we were cleaning out the house, you know, it was one of those items. Well, do you keep it, or does someone want it? Or you throw it away? But when those options came up, I thought, no, this is a way cool item. That would be so tragic to see this thrown in the garbage. So of course I took it home, and I thought it, again, sticking with this mid-century modern theme for these paintings, I thought this is like a slam dunk. It seems like typewriters are becoming a popular item for people to paint and display, and those are nice. But this typewriter looks completely different with the sleek curves and the mid-century styling on it. It just has a great appearance to it. And so I knew right away that this was going to be a good painting. And another thing that worked well is I found a wallpaper almost instantly that was going to work with this piece. I didn't have to work too hard like I did with the mod radio. So that's always a good sign that when things just happen to come together. You know, sometimes you have to work for the painting, but sometimes paintings they just find you, and that's the case with this one. It is one of my most time-consuming paintings. I worked on this for 9 to 10 months, just because there's so much detail, and I can show some of the detail images of it. Again, the photos probably on Zoom aren't really going to show it justice. It really does need to be seen in person, and in which it can be at my next show in March, hopefully. So here are some more detail images of it. So in regards to the paintings that I was going to show, that was just about it. I think I might include this one more. I've done quite a few of these record paintings. Sometimes they're 45 RPM records, sometimes they're the 78 RPM, you know, the old shellac records. And these happen to be a very good seller for me. These are very popular, and usually one of the first things to go in the show. So each show I do like to have a couple of these. This one, I should have a detail image of it. Again, they can all be seen on my site, but this one is titled "I Want to Hold Your Hand" by the Beatles. Funny thing is, this was chosen before the whole COVID thing, so it's all ironic, and I didn't mean for it to be, but I guess it is what it is. So that will conclude the paintings that I wanted to share with you. We could always go back and look for more. I'm not sure how we're doing on time.
I think, let me look at the comments and then we'll see how many questions people have. But we have, okay, Sarah named, she loves Mad Men. She said it's an excellent show. And then there was the detail about the video. Let's see what else. David was asking about what were the comments that Louis made about the painting. I think Louis sent the link to it on the video. Unless, do you remember what he said, Kyle? Or we can just, he can.
It was something in regard to his like nostalgia and it really hitting him, with it. So it was more feeling and expression than I think maybe actual words.
Yeah, I remember him also saying when he was like choosing it, or maybe he said it when, but he's on here. So Louis, do you want to just talk instead of typing? Tell us what.
There.
There.
Oh dear. I'm talking.
You're talking, yay. Well, I
Okay.
remember you saying something about, like, because you're a photographer, so then you weren't like, you're like, oh, it's a painting that looks like a photo, and you were struggling with that too, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had to double check the materials on it because at first with the digital photo, with it being a digital image of it, and I thought it was a digital image, and I thought it was something that was made digitally or like a digital photo almost, and then I could zoom into it and you'd taken a good photo of it, and or that it was a painting on top of a photo. Because once you get into the woodwork and stuff, I mean, there's detail there that doesn't even need to be there, and you put it there, and so you kind of create this whole world around the object, and like the painting is just, it's pretty incredible. And there's that nostalgia feeling about it, like it captures it, and it's hard to put it into words exactly. But I just thought your subject matter choice was very interesting. I mean, the s'more thing to me, the tinfoil, it's incredible, the tinfoil lighting, and the General Electric clock, I find that all sort of relevant to things going on, in the culture right now, but just
Sure.
in like the simplest, most elegant kind of way. So I just really, really enjoyed it in that way. And that's what I mean, just like looking at it, I could just kind of just say things about it, and it's inspiring in that way. And so yeah, I don't know, I said something in the comments about your subject choices, and it seems like what you were saying with the typewriter, that with some of them, there might be like a personal connection at times, but that at the very least, it's objects that maybe speak to you or you're inspired by.
With the typewriter being the exception, but all the other ones, yeah, they're mostly items that I just, I don't know, I'm drawn to them. I think they look cool. They look neat. And then there's some things that I'd like to see painted. It's as simple as that. You have to enjoy, when you spend so much time on these paintings, you have to enjoy what you're doing. So I wish it was more complicated than that, but that's what I'm doing. I'm painting things that I want to see painted.
Have you ever started painting something and then in like middle of it say, no, that's not what I want to do?
I've gotten close to that point. I've gotten close to having started something and then deciding not to do it. As an artist, you're always trying to grow from your work, so you sort of judge yourself on previous paintings and how well do they get recognized, and again, if they sell, it just the whole goal of being an artist is for someone to take these paintings home and enjoy them, to cherish them, to make them happy. So that's always the end goal here. And you're always judging yourself based on what worked in the past, what didn't work. Okay, what can I do better next time? So, and as I demonstrated, some of these paintings that I've shown recently, the newer pieces, they are directly influenced from previous paintings. I'm just trying to make them better. So, and as I grow as an artist, I'm not sure how much more detail I can put in the paintings, but I'm sure I could find some ways to do so.
Cool. And the s'more one is getting, we should have had like a delivery of s'mores with this talk, because you're making David hungry, I think. And Phil wanted to know if you ate s'mores after did you eat a lot of s'mores when you were painting that s'more?
I took the bite of it, but my wife did. I got my wife hooked on eating them.
She takes the bite out of the chocolate bunny too. I mean, it's perfect teeth.
No, that was mine. No, those are my bite marks.
Kathy Laska is asking, how do you do your lettering so exacting? It's amazing.
I measure, I lay it out first with pencil, very, very lightly. I always have a ruler next to me so I can check. The biggest thing is sometimes they'll lean and you won't notice that leaning until you rotate the canvas 90 degrees or 180 degrees. But once you start to do that, you can see from a different perspective, you can see what's wrong with the letter and how you need to correct it, at least in terms of how I work, that's how I do it. And some of the bigger paintings where you can't rotate the painting, I'll just take photos of them with my phone and then flip the image that way so I can see. And it helps a tremendous amount to keep the letters lined up, prevent them from leaning. Another thing you can do is look at the negative space of the letter, because sometimes you're so focused on what the positive space is, and sometimes that negative space will tell you what's wrong with it and how you can correct it.
That's cool. Any other questions, Kathy?
Just that it's just magnificent. I'm just amazed. How I imagine each painting takes a long time to do, but a labor of love indeed. Do you use special tools when you're using your thin brush to apply it to the?
In regards of medium, I don't use anything special. I usually just like linseed oil and thinner. I use odorless mineral spirits. Sometimes I like to use a little bit of stand oil and the whites to get them good and goopy so they're good and opaque. So as far as special tools, I guess I do use a magnifying glass to do the letters so I can see them better. I'm not superhuman. But I will look at my still life that I set up through these birding or butterfly binoculars, and they can focus within 18 inches. It's really cool. You can look through these binoculars and see just all the dust on some of the pieces, some of the still life references. So it's pretty neat. So regarding tools, everything else is sort of typical. What palette knives? I use a glass palette. And the brushes I mentioned I use a lot of 20/0 round paint brushes, and those are made by Princeton, and those are the ones that I like. I think they're the 3050 series. So regarding tools, that's about it.
Yeah. When you mentioned turning it upside down, it reminded me of painting on the right side of your brain. Have you ever heard of that? A lot of artists like to draw things upside down because you're not looking at objects, you're looking at shapes.
Yeah,
Maybe
and I
that's-
think that's why it works. It takes because you spend so much time looking at it one way,
Mhm.
that you can't see what needs to be corrected or what needs to be fixed, when it's right side up. But once you rotate it, it gives a complete new perspective, and you're able to see it with almost like new eyes.
Oh, neat.
You
Thank you.
mentioned dust. Barbara Weber is asking, how do you keep your still lifes dust free? Do you mean like the objects he's painting? I guess, yeah, probably the objects you're painting.
Well, not too much. I keep a pretty clean studio. Um, Not much dust falls on them. I mean, if they do, I'll just wipe them down with a rag. But um, it's usually dust getting onto the painting itself as I'm working on it, because sometimes there's a large, because my backgrounds are fairly simple, so I do use bigger brushes for that for that application. But dust happens on the painting, and I usually use a tack cloth, which is used in woodworking to remove dust before putting on a finish, a clear finish. So I do use tack cloths on the painting to remove the dust, and that helps control it. But you still get like little dust nibs in the paint, and I do pick those out. So there shouldn't be that much dust really on the still life itself or in the paint.
Sharon is asking, how thin is your paint and how many layers? And then I think you mentioned something about thinning the paint, but what brand of panel do you use?
So the brand of panel, well, let's start with the first question: is how thin the paint is, the actual when the paint is wet, or the dried film on the panel.
Sharon, would you like to answer that?
I mean, I could answer both. I mean, it's regarding to how thin the paint is for working. I use all sable brushes, so I use any Bristol brushes. So that I use very soft brushes. So you need sort of soft paint to manipulate that. So, like I said, I do use a little bit of linseed oil and a 50-50 mix of linseed oil and odorless mineral spirits as mediums, to thin the paint down to a workable consistency with those brushes. Regarding to how thin the paint is on the actual painting surface, it's pretty thin. And because of that, I usually have to do at least 2 passes. I need 2 layers to achieve full sorry, I'm trying a blank for the word, opaqueness, sorry. Full opaqueness usually is achieved within 2 layers. After that, the second layer is usually the detail layer, the layer that takes the most. The first one is just the foundation, roughing it in. If the third layer is needed, it's usually because it's just not opaque enough, or perhaps it needs like a little bit of more. Sometimes I'll even resort to glazing to darken areas. I think that answers the question.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot. Gary is actually Sharon and here. Gary, does that answer your questions?
Yes, it did. And then the brand of the panel.
Oh, the brand of the paints?
The
Panel.
or the panel too. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Oh, the panel. It's typically it's hardboard. It's masonite. I make all the panels myself. They're all 1/4-inch panels. I just buy them, by 4x8 sheet of masonite or hardboard that you would get at the hardware store. I always make sure it's the, the right stuff. I don't like to use MDF. MDF has a bunch of, sometimes it can have formaldehyde in it, and I don't want that in the painting. So, but all these hardboard pressed materials, it's a good surface to paint. It doesn't have wood grain like a regular ply would have, and it's not going to crack or splinter. So in regards to that, it's a very stable surface in which to paint. In regarding the brand, I'm not really sure which brand. It's basically whatever the store has at the time of me purchasing it. Sometimes I notice they do change retailers, but usually the product is always fairly consistent. Regarding the brand of paints, I jump around. I think I was on a kick with Rembrandt paints because they're pretty loose from the tube already, pretty smooth. But lately I've been kind of maybe a little bit too smooth. So paints that I've been buying recently have been Gamblin. And I like the consistency that I've been getting from them. So I think in the future, I'll continue to keep buying Gamblin. I always try to find the paints that are made with linseed oil because that is the best binder for oil paint. I don't care what they say about safflower oil and whites. It's not going to yellow your painting like what people think it's going to do. And if it does, all that's necessary is to brighten that white back up, which you probably won't notice anyway, is to expose it to just a little bit of sunshine, just a little bit, just a few hours, and it brings that white right back. So I always try to buy all linseed oil-based paints because I do want the painting to last. And from all the research that I can tell, linseed oil is a better option over safflower, over poppy, and even over walnut.
Okay, cool. I had Pam works here. She's an artist, and she was wondering how you prepare your panels.
Okay. Like I said, they're all 1/4 inch masonite or hardboard panels, and I'll cut them to size, and then I'll glue on. I think the term is referred to as cradling the panels. So I'll make a separate 1x2 frame that I'll glue to the back side of the hardboard, and that will be the support and keep it nice and rigid. And some of the larger paintings that I do, I'll even include an X brace in the back just to keep that painting from, just keep it more stable and more warp resistant. So that's how the construction of the panel goes. But once after that, I trim all the sides so they're neat and flush with the cradled frame in the back. So then once it's all sanded smooth, sometimes a hardboard will have that glossy sort of surface on it. I'm not exactly 100% sure what that is. It seems to soak up gesso just fine, but I sand it off anyway, just to be safe. And before I gesso the panel, I apply a product by Golden called GAC 100, and that's protect support-induced discoloration. So anything that could be in the masonite will be trapped by that foundation of GAC 100 layer. And then I sand that layer a little bit, and then I start applying multiple layers of acrylic gesso. The brand that I like to use the best is Liquitex. I think that works out best for me. And I will apply like 10 to 12 layers of gesso to each painting. Larger ones, maybe even more like 15. But then that all gets knocked down and sanded. All the texture, all the brush marks are sanded away from the panel, and you're just left with a very smooth surface. I sand up to 220. Like I said, all that's left is the communication between the actual oil paint and the viewer. And I think that can make the painting look more real, because you don't see that surface texture such as you would with canvas, which is another reason why I sand it to such a high degree. So it is very time consuming to create just the panel for the painting.
It's amazing. Wow. It's just amazing. But the results are beautiful. So a couple of comments in here. I have Jane saying, I want to hold your hand is not out of place for this time. It's exactly what I think we are all longing for. Thank you.
That's great.
And then Louis is saying, it sounds like your process involves looking at the still life from many different angles and perspectives and through magnifying glasses. It makes me wonder, what are your considerations when it comes to lighting your still life setups? Of course, he's going to ask that. He's a photography and filmmaker. Light.
Right. So I do use mostly soft light to light the still life. I have one lamp that I use in particular. It's an actual lamp that I made. It has like a 500 watt halogen bulb in it, and I then put a white diffuser in front of it, so it does provide nice soft lighting to the objects. But I have used direct light in other paintings. It just depends on what I think is going to work the best for the piece. Regarding to, I mainly just stick with the one lamp, the soft lighting, to light almost all the pieces, really. I always have the light source coming from left to right. I don't know, it's just something I've fallen into habit with. And if you notice, all the paintings sort of have the same direction of the light source. As I mentioned, all the bulbs that I use in the studio are still halogen, because they do provide the best light. But after building this house, actually, we have a bunch of LED lights in it, and I'm impressed with what LED technology has become. 5 years ago, it wasn't such this, but it's here now. So I'm considering maybe soon converting everything over from halogen to LEDs in the future.
Following up on the lighting, I'm reading what Louis is asking. You might have answered this. Do you stick with one lighting setup for each piece, or do you change lighting over the course of the painting one piece? You stay with it, right? I know that laugh.
Oh God, I'm unmuted. Oh boy, yeah, because I'm watching you reading my thing, so I'm going through the same kind of lighting, shift. And LEDs, they're much better than they used to be. And I find that some of the newer ones, they can even they kind of look like Edison bulbs, but LED, but they make a kind of filament inside of it. And it's sort of a way to trick an LED to have a similar cast of light to a tungsten bulb.
Yeah, that's funny. We actually just bought them because we have some chandeliers, we have 2 chandeliers that require 10 bulbs each. So we're looking at 20 bulbs, and we just bought a whole bunch of those. They're like $5 a piece, but they look really nice.
Nice.
Couple comments. I know it's after 7, but Sarah is saying from Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas. I'm not an artist, and your work is so detailed. It is meticulous and manic to someone like me. Using the typewriter piece as an example, how long did it take to complete? I think you said like 8 months or so. How long did it take?
Yeah, I did say, I think sometimes you don't want to know how much time you've spent on a piece, but I do believe I worked on 9 to 10. I did work on it for 9 to 10 months. So it was a long time. It's the most time consuming painting that I've done. I was hoping to get it into some shows last year in 2020. I was like, all right, I have this really good, this solid painting that I think will do well in competitions, and then COVID hits, and then no one's doing anything, and so it's unfortunate. It just didn't get to be seen.
Yeah. Well, we're doing stuff. David and Phil were saying that they're really enjoying this. You're loving this program. Kyle, you are amazing. And then they also wanted to invite you to come to see the Coca-Cola history display at the Vigo County History Museum. I think Fred helped them with that one. It's like it not walks around, like it's on a turn thing, like you would have as at the factory, I think is what Fred.
Yeah, that all sounds very neat. I had no idea. I actually have another Coke painting I could have submitted. Maybe it would have done better.
This is great. I think I have everybody's questions read on here. Anybody else? Am I missing something? I want you to show that. Okay, so you guys built the house, right? And
Correct.
also I was kind of like getting more information about you, so I was kind of Facebook stalking, I think is what they call it. And I saw all the pictures of the chair that you made for your wife behind you. I love that chair.
Yeah, it's actually right there.
It's right there. It's so cool. How many different woods did you use?
That was all walnut. I got onto a bit of a walnut kick. So the chair behind me is made of walnut. All the recent paintings are framed with walnut. So I could show, if people are interested, I could show some of the images from the house.
Do you guys want to see that?
Is it? I mean, if you say no, you won't hurt my feelings either.
Well, no one is leaving, so I think that's
Yes.
Yes,
Barb
yes,
does. Barb, yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay. All right.
We
Okay.
told you
All right.
they wanted
I'll get on.
to. Yes. So you were saying you were looking for mid-century modern houses and you weren't finding that's why you decided to build?
That's correct. Yeah. There's a lot of mid-century modern homes just north of us, north of the city, but we don't want to live up there. So we tried to find just something that we thought that we liked in our local area, and we just weren't coming up with it. And at the same time, the real estate market was really high. So, it seemed like we had to spend a lot to not get nearly what we wanted. So we have a family friend who is a builder, and he decided to take on this project for us. So in 2019, we bought a 1.5 acre wooded lot, which you can see Kate and I standing there. That's right as they took the forms off for the foundation. That was June 1st. But like I said, we couldn't find any houses that were already built that we liked, and we were pretty, I guess, pretty picky about what we wanted. So I guess when you have an idea of what you want, that specific, I guess the next step is to build. So we both discovered early on that we liked mid-century modern homes. So we tried our best to build a new one. So this is a picture of Kate, my wife, sitting in the window frame of the house as the framing just went up. So Here's the completed house. That's the front of it. There's a lot of transom windows in it. There's lots of light. It is only 3 bedrooms, and like I said, it's on a wooden lot, and it has a full basement. It's huge. The square footage of the upstairs is nearly 2,700, 2,677 to be exact. But we have another house in the basement, which we left unfinished. That was always the intended plan. We'll finish it later. So here are just some more images of the house from different angles. This was right around the time that they poured the concrete for both the driveway and the patio. So we started building this house directly around the time that COVID hit, in March, I believe it was. So we did get delayed a little bit due to permits and the townships not letting us get the permit. So there was a lot of delay there. But once we started the actual construction in it in June, it took 6 months. So right around the time that it takes to build a house. So here's the inside. The background is what you could see from the screen of myself. So this was right before we moved in. This was right after everything got cleaned up from all the construction dust. That's our kitchen. All the floors are maple. We have hardwood throughout. So we went with natural maple for the majority of the house. Here's another view from the kitchen looking out. It's definitely open concept. The kitchen and dining, it's all in one area. So this is the bedroom, the master bedroom, and it also has those big transom windows in it. Here's just another wall inside the master. And then here's my wife's tub that she wanted so badly.
Tub.
Our vanity. And then an enormous shower, maybe too much shower. We didn't realize how big that was.
You're getting a beautiful home from Gary. And then Barbara Weber said, perfect home for native plantings. She's the native plants expert.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it was definitely a process. Is it worth it? Yeah, but I don't know if I would want to do it again. Especially during COVID.
Yeah, it's really neat. Love it. I love all the windows too and the openness.
Yeah, we do too. It's amazing during the daytime. It'd be interesting to see how much light is actually in the summertime when the sun comes around.
And I like how the windows behind you, when you had the image with the trees, so how it frames the trees in the back. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really quite beautiful on this lot. Yeah, it seems to fit really well here. And I like the fact that the house it's different from most everything around here. It's unique for where it is.
Mm-hmm. We have more beautiful home comments, and then Sarah, good for you and your wife. And then David, thank you so much for sharing. Wait, was there more? Okay, I think I got all the comments. Awesome, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or anything? You are welcome to unmute and say it. And I know we're at 7:21. Okay.
I wanted to ask, are you making a lot of the furniture for the home?
Well, I did make the chair in the background. I made the coffee table. I made a side table. There's a few more pieces that I would like to make for this house.
Mhm.
But there's already so much to do. It's just, my list is pretty full right now. So,
Wonderful.
Awesome, wonderful. And good luck on your exhibition. Hopefully it will happen. And even if
thank you.
people have to wear masks and go visit when it's open.
Mhm.
Are they regular hours at the gallery? Like,
Not yet. I mean,
oh, okay.
so I'm not sure what it's going to be like in March. I hope it's different, but I don't know.
Gary is asking, when do you sleep?
Yeah.
Do you sleep?
Well, in between painting and doing some other kind of creative thing, making or something.
I love earlier when we did a practice run when Fred asked you, are you very detailed in everything, like in your process? And what was your answer? I love the answer.
Unfortunately, yes.
But what do you say about your clothes?
Okay. In regards to painting,
Yeah.
when I paint, I don't get any paint on my clothes.
I
I don't even have, I just came out of the studio. I don't even have any paint on my hands.
Wow.
gosh, that's incredible. Right, love it. It makes sense though. It makes sense. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you all for joining. Let's say they're saying incredible. It was wonderful hearing you speak about your process. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much, Kyle. And I hope you would come to visit us soon at the SWOPE. And we'll look forward to see what you get in the exhibition next year.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I have the show, and if the show goes well, I won't have anything to put in. So we'll see.
Does it, how long? Oh yeah, you'll be sold out. Okay, well now your house is done. Get on it. Let's get more painting.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us. All right. Have a good night.